Welcome to Person, a cultural arts talk show featuring visual artists, musicians, and entertainment professionals who have a story to tell. Person shares studio interviews, and we look into the performances that fuel the soul and spirit. I'm your host, Mark Person. Join me on Person to Person, where everyone has a story to tell. Welcome to Person, where everyone has a story to tell. Today, I am so honored to be at one of my most favorite places in the world, the Cultural Center of Cape Cod, here in beautiful South Yarmouth. And two of my favorite people, Executive Director Bob Nash and Assistant Director Lauren Walk. Guys, tell us about the Cultural Center. What do you guys do so special here?
Well, first, thanks for having us, Mark.
You're welcome.
Yes, thanks, Mark. Pleasure.
Wow, do you have a 5-hour show? Because you want us to tell you what we do, it's going to take that long or more, so we'll try and be brief. Maybe Bob should start because he was part of the reason why this building is here, why this cultural center is here in the first place.
Well, let's go back 10 years to this building, which was really the impetus to bring this whole thing to fruition. This building was sitting here in near ruin. Holes in the ceilings, animals in here, indigent homeless people staying here. So in 2003, I was given a tour. I walked into the building and I just looked at the architecture and knew that something had to be done to save this building. And looking at the beauty of the building and kind of envisioning it complete, I knew that when that day came, that this would be an important venue on the Cape for all kinds of things. So after many years of hard work and scraping paint and all new mechanical systems and new floor and ceilings and everything, here we are today, and it's actually exceeded all my expectations.
Everybody's expectations. Bob's attitude has always been, if you build it, they will come, and boy, did they ever. I started here 3 months after they opened their doors in 2007, and I could not believe the onslaught, the community just lining up to come in here and do a million different kinds of things. And Bob's philosophy and the philosophy of the board was always democratic, accessible. Nobody's idea is bad. Everyone deserves to be listened to. Emerging artists, established artists, all kinds of artists. So, of course, who wouldn't line up to come to a place like that?
Just last evening, a gentleman asked me, how do you find all these groups, music groups and performers and artists and whatnot? And the fact is we don't look for anything. It finds us. It walks in the door every day, either physically walks in the door, phone call, emails. On my computer, I'm responding to a musician that wants to play here, and the phone rings, and it's another musician that wants to play here. And this happens 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day. Right now, we're juggling about 150 contracts for different events that will happen here over the next several months.
To have the vision in the eye, and of course you are a master photographer, and I have to say that, Bob, because you know, you really truly are, love your work, and be able to see this building when no one else could see it, and that's an absolutely amazing thing. It was a bank before, right?
Correct, it was the Bass River Savings Bank, a bank held in high regard by the entire Cape back in the day when there weren't banks on every corner. So.
Wow, absolutely beautiful. And just to piggyback on what you said, Lauren. I had the gallery back in 2008 in Mashpee, and I had a beautiful artist. His name was Yannick Lepew, and he was from France. And he did beautiful three-dimensional type of work. He would do sculpture and he would paint it in a more geometric type of style, his style was. And he told me about you guys. He did an exhibit for him, and that was back in 2008. So I always thought about you guys. And I walked in here back in 2000, I believe it was 2012, and at the time I was trying to book Gary Foote Harlem Works. I think I brought the CD here. When I walked in, this place had such a beautiful energy, and you guys were so kind and giving, and thank you so much for doing that for me. And we booked them.
Thank you for bringing them and others, and for being a partner in that sort of thing over the years. That's what we count on.
So who are you showcasing now? What are you doing right now?
Well, this is actually a pretty good time to be talking about what we do, because in the 4 galleries we have, in this gallery, you can see the art here. This is called the Turning 15 at 50 exhibit. A woman who was turning 50 years old, also celebrating her 15th year cancer-free, decided to celebrate the event by inviting anyone who was a cancer survivor to submit work to this show and help her celebrate this accomplishment. So they did, and a lot of the work is textile, but not all. We have a wonderful, Greg Stone, a wonderful artist in our boardroom gallery who's from off Cape. We really try and achieve a balance of emerging and established, but also off Cape and on Cape, so that we have a lot of variety. And he has a show called Nothing But the Blues, depicting great blues artists over the years. And in the vault, we have a show of student work. And in the Blue Room Gallery, we have a show by Hands Helping Hands, which is an organization helping people with special needs. So it's a nice little microcosm of who we are. And then we have a million events going on, concerts and readings and all kinds of special events. And then the continuous work of completing our new education wing.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we react to the community, and the community wants a lot, and we didn't have the room to satisfy everything they were asking for, so we decided to build a wing. And pretty tough in an economy like we've had, very young organization. It's been a real uphill climb, but thanks to the support of the state, the town of Yarmouth, and a lot of private donations, we have raised the money we need, and we have had wonderful builders come in and help us create this extraordinary new resource for the community. But Bob really designed the building along with an architect.
Beautiful.
And has himself, with his own hands, done much of the work of creating this beautiful new facility.
Well, the community need was just overwhelming. I tell people that I don't feel like the executive director most days. I feel like a traffic cop. You're over there. You're over there. And
It's true. It's true.
It's a good problem to have. And we had this property next door. There was a derelict building there, referred to as the Owl Club, and that's a long history that we won't get into. But so we tore that building down and we built this building in its likeness, considerably larger. Believe it or not, there's 9,000 square feet of usable space that will have a culinary arts kitchen, recording studio, photography studio, and pottery and studios for individual artists. And those artists in their studios will also teach. So we expect a beehive of activity. And we tell people that are interested in having space, if you're looking for peace and quiet, this isn't it.
Forget it.
You know?
Forget it. It is a beehive.
We want interaction between artists and just camaraderie, and so.
You're doing a lot with the community, you're doing a lot with the kids, and I love that. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, pretty soon after I started here, pretty soon after we opened, we started thinking about ways to serve kids at risk. Primarily teenagers, but really anybody. We're not going to turn anyone down, and in fact, some of these people are beyond kidhood, you know, but they're still relatively young. We started by offering these free workshops in the schools, arts workshops, and here. It's the Rise and Shine program. We figured we'd help them rise to their capacity by sending these wonderful artists into the schools to work with them, and anything from writing to creating any kind of art. And then the Shine part is we offer free exhibition and performance space here, or if it's more suitable in their own communities, Provincetown, Bourne, somewhere far afield, we partner with somebody there so that the kids can have a reading or a musical performance or an exhibit. That has grown and grown and grown over the years to the point now where part of it, an increasingly large part, is mentoring. So if a kid comes to us through the district attorney's office because they have run afoul of the law, or they're on probation, or they're in one of the many programs on the Cape that works for youth at risk, and they want a mentor in saxophone or creative writing or ballroom dance or whatever it happens to be, we find a mentor, we pay the mentor, and a lot of people volunteer to be mentors, but we're hiring artists to be mentors who should be paid just like your plumber gets paid or your electrician gets paid. And so we are continually raising money to be able to pay people to work with kids for whom the arts are, in every sense, literally a lifeline. So on the Cape, the teen suicide rate is higher than anywhere in the Commonwealth. And depression and opioid and heroin abuse are on the rise. And if the arts can make a difference for a young person, we are absolutely there to help make that happen, and it's been very successful.
Wow, so this is their escape.
It is, or it's actually putting them in touch with the best part of themselves, the parts that are stronger but need to be stronger still, so that they can combat all these really risky behaviors that are out there.
Well, you guys have been mentors to me. I just want you to know that when I first came in, we did the booking of Harlem Works, and of course Hernan Ramiro and Dario and quite a few people. But I had the opportunity to exhibit my photography. It was person to person at the time, beautiful portraits and what have you. And I remember Bob coming in. I think I had a beautiful Lou Colombo, his horns, both his horns, a little small one he used to use and his larger one. And I remember Bob saying, "Mark, that's a nice shot." When Barb turned around, I said, yes, yes, because I look up to you guys so much, and I want to thank you so very much for that. But what I really want to talk about is both you guys acclaim, award-winning photographer over 25 years, poet, award-winning poet, author. You got a new book we'll talk about a little later. But you guys are a great team. You guys such cohesion. How do you do that and elevate this particular beautiful hall?
Well, I think, Lauren and I share the same philosophy on, and like she said earlier, about a democratic approach. And we see ourselves as facilitators. And when somebody walks in the door, as you walked in the door 3 or 4 years ago, I guess, and you had an idea. And we look at that and say, let's make this happen. It sounds like something that we should be doing, to help other artists and move things forward and people grow. It's the same with artwork. Early on, we exhibited local art groups, and they were kind of a ragtag group, and their stuff was falling out of frames, and they weren't wired properly. So in a nice way, we educated people, and now these same groups come and their work is so polished, and they know exactly how they should present their work. And their work has grown too. I mean, artists that were just kind of starting out and emerging artists are now very accomplished, selling their work regularly. So,
and we both bring something to the table then. I do the PR, which is, kind of important. There are a lot of arts organizations on the Cape. There's a lot going on, and you really need to get the word out about what you're doing. So we do that on behalf of the artists who show here and perform here. It's really important that people know what they're doing. And Bob is the master curator of shows. He hangs beautiful shows, and which is a real skill. It's an art in and of itself.
yeah, she's actually party to that as well.
Well, we both. I have
she
skills
says that goes over there, and I put it on the wall.
He has skills I lack. I have skills he lacks, or we have strengths and weaknesses, and it's interesting how together we pretty much cover the gamut. We knock heads sometimes, like people do, and it's really funny. Occasionally people think we're married because we bicker so much, but we are, but just not to each other. But we're good friends too, and this is like a family business. We really invest an awful lot in it, and we consider it a labor of love, and we work very, very hard for the place, for the people who use it, for the community as a whole. There's so much need. There really is.
I remember when you were trying to raise the funding to add the additional wing. How were you able to do that?
Well, when you have a great cause, it's easier. But I won't say it was easy, because it wasn't. It isn't. A capital project like this is sexier than raising money to keep the lights on and the heat on. So we had that advantage. But many of the people on the Cape who have the means to help with such a project are from other towns. This is where they come for their vacation. They don't want to be bothered, or they've already given a great deal in Boston or Worcester or wherever they're coming from. So that makes it all the more difficult. But when they come in here and they see what we're doing and they read in the paper about the work we're doing for young people and other communities that are at risk, they fall in love, just the way we are in love with this place. And they support us. And 1/3 of the money for the new wing came from the Massachusetts Cultural Council, which has wonderful grant programs. 1/3 came from the Town of Yarmouth Community Preservation Fund, which has supported us from the beginning. And 1/3 came from private donors in amounts from $5 to $100,000. Wow. So we really feel like we've got some serious partners in all this. It's a big family.
You know what I love is that when we were trying to promote Harlem Works here, and you were both you guys were partners, and I really love that. I really appreciate that. But it's not just a Cape thing, what you guys do. It's a global thing. And Gary Foote and Jenny Douglas, I mean, they're touring with Smokey Robinson and all these amazing players. They always tell me, Mark, when can we play the Cultural Center again? Because
whenever they want.
How you treated them. And also the energy of the place, where you were able to see, Bob, when you saw this building, you saw it, you know, and so many people, you guys are inspired so many people. How are you able to continue to do that?
Well, it's a labor of love, and you know, if you love what you do, it's easy, even though it's hard. You know, people say, "Do you live here?" Because when they walk in the door, chances are I'm going to be here. You know, people want to make appointments with me, and well, when's a good time? Anytime's a good time. I'm here. Just come. You know, I usually give people my cell phone number. Give me a call. I'm rarely more than 2 minutes away. Unfortunately, I live about 2 minutes away. She's lucky enough to live 15 minutes away, so
they call him.
So I'm the one that is here for most everything. But like I said, I absolutely love this job. No 2 days are ever the same. So it's just a great place to be, and there's a great vibe here, as you know. So. Right.
And we have a lot of volunteers who help us. Yes. We have a third staff person, Robin Fryer, who's our business administrator, and she keeps us, you know, all tidy. And then these great volunteers who come in and help with all sorts of things. And without them, we'd be lost. So that's critical. And a great board of directors.
An amazing core of volunteers that we can't understate. If it weren't for the volunteers, we'd probably perish, because you just couldn't keep up with it all.
Well, they're so warm. You know, you call on the phone, they're very warm. And then when you walk in, you know, it's about a climate. And you guys have a beautiful client here. What I want to add is that both of you guys bring so much to the table, and you're writing these beautiful books. And I heard you recite a poem, I think it was at the Cotuit Center for the Arts. And it was just amazing. And in looking at your work, I can see inside of it. And I think it has a lot to do with what you guys are doing here. Tell us about what you're doing.
Well, I always thought of myself primarily as a writer, because I have always written fiction and poetry. But I discovered relatively late in life, I think I was in my 30s, I discovered that I also am a visual artist, an assemblage artist, and increasingly involved in other media. It's incredible what people have untapped you know, that they sometimes discover purely by accident, or they evolve into being something they didn't expect to be. So in my case, I've always found the arts to be my pulse, you know, at the root of who I am. This place has really brought that out, not only because of what I practice, but also because of the company I'm in all the time, the work I'm surrounded by. It's invigorating, it's inspiring, and I can't imagine ever retiring. I can't imagine ever letting any of this go. But as you say, I have a book coming out next year, a novel, and another one after that. It was a 2-book deal. I'm in the middle of that second one. And I have to confess, if the days were longer, I wouldn't mind, because I could use a few more hours to write and to make art. I have a show coming up in Brewster, and I haven't begun to think about that. But it is difficult sometimes to be all those people in one. But the alternative would be terrible. Not to have all those dimensions, not to have so many facets in the gem would be really limiting. So I'm not complaining about it. It's a little bit of a struggle sometimes.
That's amazing. Tell me about that studio. You have a music studio here.
Oh, recording studio.
Oh my God.
Well, when we set out to build the wing, we first polled 1,700 high school students to find out what their interests really were, because we're reactive to the community. Instead of building what we think the kids want, and anyone wants, we listen. So the kids said the 2 things they most wanted, in addition to the other things we're giving them, were a culinary arts center where they could learn to cook and stay on the Cape and work, and a recording studio where they could record their music. A lot of musicians here. Very difficult to get a demo produced properly. Very hard to pay for such a thing. So we decided we would build a recording studio that would be free or very affordable to all musicians, but especially to teenagers. And we're almost there.
Yeah, I love the kitchen.
Yeah, the kitchen, Bob has tiled the kitchen. He's
beautiful.
It's pretty much his baby.
Yeah, it's, you know, we thought going into it, we're going to have this big, huge kitchen. Well, now as the refrigerators and the sinks and the stainless steel tables are coming into it, it's kind of shrinking on itself. I'd like to make the main hall the kitchen and the kitchen the main hall. Because, I mean, the interest is huge. Everybody that comes into the building looks at the kitchen, they just can't wait to take cooking classes, and the possibilities there are just endless. And we're actually talking with a great chef who is going to be our internal cooking entrepreneur and catering events and cooking classes and demonstrations and bringing in guests, chefs and pastry makers and you name it. So the sky's the limit.
How can your website, how could the world know about the Cultural Center of Cape Cod?
There are a bunch of ways, and one thing we haven't talked about too is one other interesting new development, and that is we just started a small press called Bass River Press, so that we can publish the work of local writers, starting with one collection of poetry. And so there's a Facebook page for that. We have our own Facebook page as well. We have a website. We're part of the Arts app for the Cape, so you can find out plenty about us that way too. We have a weekly blast we send out to anyone who wants it. We send out a newsletter. We have lots of different ways of reaching people, a lot of it electronic, and an good old-fashioned paper too, so that we reach everybody no matter what their inclinations are. Yeah, just look for Cultural Center of Cape Cod online and you'll find lots about us.
And Facebook as well?
And Facebook as well.
Social media?
Yeah, and I'm learning to tweet.
Oh, that's great. That's great. You have another performance hall, which is absolutely beautiful, slightly smaller with the wooden floors. Tell us about that. What are you going to be booking there?
Well, the education wing is just that, and most everything that happens over there will have some kind of educational component. As opposed to a ceiling-mounted projector and a big pull-down screen, we're putting in a huge flat panel display that will have the ability to tie into a camera. So if you're giving a cooking demonstration, I can have a camera on you and it's all showing up on this big 70-inch screen. Same with painting demonstrations, any kind of presentation. Unlike the space here, we were able to put in a small stage. And it's not a stage in the sense of a theatrical performance or anything like that. It's more to give a presenter a presence.
We're a small band.
Right. And the culinary arts, I didn't mention this, we're looking at fueling a seasonal cafe that could be out in the terrace, and maybe some of it spilling into the hall itself. And we see a nice little jazz trio in there,
Bistro.
quiet, come in, have a conversation, and some nice food. And
Yeah, we plan to partner with the tech school. Has a wonderful culinary arts program. Yep, Cape Cod Tech. Are terrific. And so we could see having a symbiotic relationship with them. And then there are all these chefs, like Bob said, who want to run the place. And we'll see. It's a work in progress. But we figure with all the partners who want to be part of this enterprise, we'll have really a huge staff.
I think, I'll say this with some reservation, I think we're done building. I think.
For now, maybe.
And now the objective is to make all that we have a well-oiled machine and just humming along perfectly, and try to do that with the same budgetary constraints and philosophy that we've had all along. When we talk about fundraising and fundraising for the wing, we're in the fundraising business. That's how arts organizations traditionally have existed. Very few arts organizations make widgets that you go out and sell, and that pays the bills. Because of our own philanthropic philosophy about giving to the public, to people in need. Social service agencies come here and have events. We don't charge them for that. All the schools can have exhibits. So we constantly have to be out there raising money, and it's challenging sometimes, but.
However, since you asked about building, my dream is to have a campus where perhaps someone will donate a house for us to turn into a place where we can have retreats for writers and artists, and they can stay there. We could have an artist in residence. We could have just more room to expand. I don't see us building anything else, but I do see us acquiring, if possible. And I don't think we'll ever be able to afford to buy one of the buildings around here. It's a beautiful neighborhood, but I could see potentially somebody donating space to it.
Believe it or not, in the 10 years that we've been here, there are people that live right in the town of Yarmouth that have never been here before. And, some people are kind of put off by the notion of culture and arts and whatnot. But I think if they came here and they saw, first of all, the energy and the vibe that's here.
We're not stuffy.
Early on, people would come in and they look at the architecture and they're whispering like it's a library and they need to be quiet. But we immediately put them at ease. And one thing that I always say to the volunteers is, don't say to a visitor, "Can I help you?" Say, "Welcome to the Cultural Center. If you need anything, please let me know."
It's cultural-center.org. Just Google Cultural Center of Cape Cod, you'll find us. And on Facebook, same thing, and the Bass River Press, which it's just brand new, so I feel like a new mother with a little baby. Yeah, it's exciting. There's nothing quite like it on the Cape. But it's a good example of how we do things, because usually it would take years and a lot of committees and a lot of discussion and a lot of planning, all of which are good things when you're building a wing. But when you have a more discreet project, something you can pull off, to be able to just do it without a lot of fuss is so liberating, it's so exciting. And so you never know. Next week there could be some other new initiative that we're launching that we haven't thought of yet.
So now, if people wanted to donate, how can they do that?
Lots of different ways. They can go to our website and see there the many different programs that deserve funding, from unrestricted to program funding, or
we'd prefer that they just come in and sit down and talk to us. We'd love to talk to people about their ideas and how they might help. And you know, there's one thing about this building. When people come in and they see the energy here, they're very open to helping us out.
But we should say we look rich. We look a lot richer than we are. We're not. We're just blessed with a gorgeous facility.
Yes, and you are great people and very warm. And I want to thank you guys so much, because I wouldn't be here today doing person to person, where everyone has a story to tell, without the both of you guys. And that's why I wanted to be here. And so please come to beautiful South Yarmouth and check out these guys at this gorgeous location here in person to person. My name is Mark Person. I'm your host today. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mark. I had the pleasure of responding to Richard Neal's large piece there between the windows. It forced me to do what I love about Mutual Muses, which was to write something I never would have written otherwise, in a way that is very unlike me. I usually don't rhyme, and here I go. This is called Urban Posy. Lilac smoke and jonquil glare, the city spring is clean tattoo and berry stomp and iris glare, the sweet surprise of crocus spew, of tulip stink and blossom bray, of snowdrop soot and siren gloom, of breezy brine and daisy gray, of fresh exhaust and lemon gloom. All mine to give, all yours to take, all mine to mend, all yours to break. Thank you.
En tus besos me había perdido sin saber.
Amigo mío, yo te quiero aconsejar que todo lo que brilla en este mundo no es de oro. Piénsalo. La vida nueva comenzó, una vida nueva, sin tu amor. La vida nueva comenzó, una vida nueva, sin tu amor.
Siempre puede ser el que te ayude a cortar la venda que hay en tus ojos para ver mejor.
Y frente a ti a veces puede estar el verdadero amor que silencioso